Something just happened behind closed doors at Downing Street, and it could change everything about Britain's border crisis. So Keir Starmer has unveiled a brand new deal with France that's already sparking outrage, but not for the reasons you might think. On the surface, it looks like action, but when you dig a little deeper, the numbers just don't add up. What's really going on here? And why are critics calling this deal a complete farce? Let's break it down. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. We have released our new 0% Liberal t-shirts. You can find them at britishstand.com or go to the link in the description. Let's get back into today's video. In a move that's already raising eyebrows across the political spectrum, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has struck a new migrant agreement with French President Emmanuel Macron, one that critics say is a political sleight of hand rather than a real solution. Under the new one-in, one-out deal, Britain will be allowed to return just 50 illegal migrants per week to France, roughly 6% of the current rate of channel crossings. To put that into perspective, more than 44,000 migrants have already arrived in the UK since Labour won the 2024 general election. That means for every 17 migrants that arrive on British shores, only one will be returned under this deal. Let that sink in. 16 out of every 17 people who cross illegally will still be allowed to stay. A shift in approach, or a disguised U-turn. Starmer has been keen to distance himself from the Conservative Party's controversial Rwanda deportation plan, a policy he repeatedly criticised as unworkable and inhumane. Instead, Labour's new approach is being presented as a more diplomatic, European-style alternative, a mutual agreement with France focused on joint cooperation and legal pathways. But critics are already accusing the Labour government of window dressing, pointing out that this deal still results in thousands of undocumented migrants staying in the UK every month with no serious mechanism to deter the small boat crossings. Government sources say the UK hopes to increase the number of returns in future phases of the scheme, but as it stands, the agreement is being viewed by many as an optical move, designed to give the impression of action while doing little to alter the core reality on the ground. What's in the deal? The agreement will reportedly see 50 illegal channel migrants return to France each week. In exchange, the UK will accept a matching number of asylum seekers directly from France, those who are processed through the official system. In theory, this is supposed to smash the gangs by removing the incentive for dangerous crossings and encouraging migrants to use legal routes instead. But there's a catch. People smugglers thrive on volume, chaos, and loopholes, and critics argue this plan simply doesn't disrupt their business model enough to make a meaningful difference. Why? Because the vast majority of those who arrive in Britain illegally will still remain here, many of them staying in hotels, waiting for claims to be processed, or launching legal appeals that can drag on for years. Political gamble or PR stunt? Downing Street is hailing the plan as a sensible step forward, claiming it marks the beginning of a new era of international cooperation on migration. But within hours of the news breaking, Conservative MPs and Reform UK figures were already lining up to call it out. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman said the deal makes a mockery of British sovereignty, while Nigel Farage called it a pathetic surrender to the EU agenda. Even within Labour's own ranks, murmurs of unease are beginning to surface, especially from MPs in constituencies heavily impacted by migration and asylum housing. What comes next? Both governments say this is only the starting point. They've hinted at further bilateral cooperation, including joint patrols, intelligence sharing, and the possibility of expanding the number of weekly returns if the scheme proves effective. But that word, if, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because as of now, the reality is stark. Tens of thousands of illegal migrants have crossed the channel in just a matter of months, and the UK's capacity to remove even a fraction of them remains severely limited. This 17-to-1 ratio is unlikely to send a serious message to the smugglers, and even less likely to calm the growing public anger in communities overwhelmed by the pressures of housing, schooling, and healthcare shortages. In summary, Keir Starmer's new migrant deal may sound diplomatic, pragmatic, and progressive, but under the surface, it's another example of politics over practicality. A deal that returns just 50 people a week, while over 1,000 arrive in the same period, doesn't solve a crisis. It manages the headlines. Whether that's enough to appease the public, or just the beginning of another backlash, remains to be seen. One thing's clear, if this is Labour's answer to illegal migration, many won't be buying it. In other news, Labour's LGBT+ group has sparked outrage after nominating a transgender woman to become their next women's officer. Delivering his verdict, commentator Alex Armstrong declared that a man cannot understand women's issues. Trans activists nominated Steph Richards, a trans woman, to be the women's officer for the Labour Party's LGBT+ group. The controversial move, backed by the Trans Rights Alliance, has received strong criticism from gender-critical Labour members who say it breaches party rules and defies the Supreme Court ruling defining woman as biological sex. Weighing in on Richards' nomination, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett said it is inappropriate to nominate a transgender woman for the role over a biological woman. Torbett said, "I would say it's probably inappropriate because if you are trans, you can probably talk about the issues trans women may face. But I think if you're going for a women's officer role, you've got to be a woman from birth. Therefore, you can talk more broadly about issues women face." Criticizing Torbett's polite take on the issue, commentator Alex Armstrong hit out at the nomination of Richards. "I think that is 100% the case that a man can't ever understand women's issues. It's just a matter of fact, we just can't. That's how it is. If I were to magically become a woman tomorrow, I don't think I'd know what it means to be a woman." Offering his verdict, commentator Steve N. Allen stated, "If there was a trans officer and they put someone in who wasn't trans, I'm sure they'd complain. So the logic stands, and they'd agree with the logic half the time." Echoing Allen's thoughts, Torbett then explained, "There are facts, right? So gender is a social construct, sex isn't, it's biological. I think the same could be said of race and ethnicity. And I can only imagine the backlash if a white person was elected as LGBT+ Labour's or any other group's race officer, for instance, and it was a white person, not somebody that wasn't white. And I think that's where we have to maybe look at the facts on this sort of stuff, at the risk of upsetting and actually just representing people." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.